I'm here with Joanne Donovan, and I wanted to specifically talk to Joanne because Joanne is in, she's been married to someone for 32 years. And I think I struggle with a lot, and I know from hearing from a lot of you, you also sort of struggle with the idea of what if you meet someone and that person doesn't share your faith. And so, Joanne, I wondered if you could just so first briefly tell me about the path. Obviously, well, you're a Christian now, and your husband is not a Christian, but sort of tell me that path of how you got to this place.
Well, we were both raised Catholic, actually, so that's kind of interesting. Initially, we both actually went to Catholic school, so that's another commonality in our experience. But I guess what happened for Rich is that a couple of things occurred. The fellow who married us, who was a priest, a Catholic priest, was Rich's best friend, all growing up through many years in New Jersey. And what happened eventually, we found out about 2 years after we were married, that this man was arrested for pedophilia. So that really put a sour taste in Rich's mouth as far as organized religion and especially the Catholic Church.
I can imagine. Yeah.
It just was a tough thing. And about 15 years into our marriage, I lost my job in a major corporation. And that became a time for me to really reevaluate what my life was all about, what our marriage was all about, and what my relationship to God was all about. And at that time, I started attending Redeemer Presbyterian Church in Manhattan and just really understood my connection to the Lord at that point and really embraced him with my whole heart and soul. And from then on in, it was just, a natural evolution for me, but not for Rich.
Okay.
So it is a difficult situation. As you have been, I'm sure, talking, marriage itself is a difficult sort of adjustment and,
right.
That whole process. But when you add the religious aspect onto it, especially just belief in God versus not really believing there is a God. So it's even beyond religion. It's really that sense. It really adds a fundamental complication. And it's really a basic complication in the relationship.
What makes it a complication for your marriage? Like, why should people give it a second thought if that person doesn't share your faith?
Well, my faith is really important to me. It's really at the core of my identity and my being. And so I think if you're in that kind of situation, it's like, somebody not believing in air versus somebody who believes in air, who breathes. It comes down to that. And of course, when I became a young Christian, I made every single mistake in the book, Nina. I mean, I just did everything that I could probably do unintentionally to make Rich go further and further away. So I would definitely caution folks who are in that circumstance to really talk to a counselor, whatever trusted counselor that both of you can really relate to when you think it's serious. I mean, in the beginning, I would suggest it's probably better to try to avoid the conflict, but if you just fall head over heels for somebody after the first date and you know it's something you want to pursue, then I would really have the two of you sit down and talk with an objective third party who has, values that are, at least you can both relate to, and really try to talk out some of these issues, because it can be the deal breaker, the tough thing in a marriage, probably as much as financial kinds of things would be.
So tell me, for a couple who, again, they're not married yet, but they're getting more and more serious, and they're thinking of taking that next step to marriage, what are some things they need to know if they could look 10 years into the future, or even 2 years into the future, that they probably, because they're so in love and everything's great and I get along with them perfectly and it's not an issue, what are some things that if they could really see a couple years into the road, they need to work on now to prepare for years down the road?
Well, one thing I would suggest is if the person who is not the person of faith will attend a service, that would be extremely helpful. So just even, as, meeting the family kind of thing, getting to know church friends who may be different from other friends, other scenarios.
And that's like a one-time thing, that just sort of getting your feet wet into what this person that you love believe and what they're about?
I definitely would suggest that as, as a starting place. Um, and the kinds of things I think the person of faith needs to consider then after that would be, how active are you in your church, and how much do you hang out with your church friends, and are they your church family, which is my case. Is it really a serious commitment to be with these people, and will your spouse to be, or the person that your significant other, will that person be immersed in that world, or how does that person fit or accept that world? There's always that question of children. It really is a serious matter how you can raise your children, and are they being brought up in a faith, or are you not faith oriented? It really is huge. So that would be another thing that I would say.
And just one last thing that I wanted to mention too. I know a lot of people who are dating someone who's not of their faith, they try to convert that person. It's called, I think there's a term like missionary dating or something like that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I would say that's one to avoid. It's just, yeah, I think that's an interesting perspective. It isn't one I would recommend. I think, dating is hard enough. You don't need to add this, missionary perspective on the whole situation. Again, just trying to be respectful of the other person, and really just seeing where you are and being honest with yourself, and with your own values. Really, the whole thing can help you determine what you really hold to be, the essentials versus things you thought were nice, or things you thought you were committed to. So.
All right, great. Well, great advice. Thanks so much, Joanne. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Nina, and I'm wishing you all the best, and I'm praying for you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.